against another. Oh,
yeah, no problem. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Lisa.
Hello. Hey, everybody out there. Lisa Kipps-Brown with Adaptable Entrepreneur Show. And I'm so happy to welcome Todd Connor this week. Todd, a lot of my military followers will know who you are. Todd is the founder of Bunker Labs, and he's also the author of my brain just went blank. Third Shift Entrepreneur. I'm sorry.
I had to think about it too. Okay, we got it.
We were talking about books a minute ago, and it made me lose my train of thought. So, but now I'm going to let Todd introduce himself and give you more of his background, and then we'll get into talking about more fun stuff.
Sure. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for the chance to come speak with you and your fans. Yeah, so we started an organization called Bunker Labs that helps military veterans and military spouses, as well as active duty. And I know your husband's a 26-year retired Navy. So thank you for his service and your service as a military spouse during that time. But, I did a few years in the Navy, got out, went into business, and found my way into entrepreneurship, and took the lessons learned and saw an opportunity to help other military veterans start businesses. And that's what we did about 7 years ago. We started this organization, Bunker Labs. And today there's chapters in about 40 cities across the country. It looks a little bit different now because of COVID and all that, but we're supporting about 3,500 entrepreneurs between in-person programs and online programs. And I just have a real passion for people being able to start businesses. And for me, it's not about it's not about the cool, sexy tech stuff, really. It's for me, it's about people finding fulfillment through their work. And so often that fulfillment comes by way of starting your own business and taking control of your own destiny. And this is certainly true for the military community. 25% of military veterans want to start their own business. So a quarter of the population is asking themselves when they get out, how do I, work for myself and set the ground of my own potential? And I think in the public at large, it's a significant percentage of people that want to start their own business as well. And so that's a little bit of the background. I wrote the book to really help reframe the conversation of what it means to start your own business. I think a lot of the conversation, and I say this having run accelerator programs, designed accelerator programs, been in co-working spaces, incubators. I mean, across the country, I've had the privilege of seeing a lot. And a lot of what's built is around helping people on the assumption that they will have a scalable technology business that is sort of primed for investment. And the vast majority of businesses in this country don't fit that profile. They're going to be people that open up marketing shops and restaurants and home healthcare businesses and all kinds of important businesses that don't require, a trip to Silicon Valley. So I wanted to tell those stories, and that's what the book is all about. It's about how to do that and find fulfillment through your work by doing some of these strategies that may not otherwise be talked about.
I love that because you're right. The emphasis now is so much on venture capital and just diving in whole hog. And a lot of people, kind of like over the past few decades, the trades got left behind because everybody was pushed to go to college and we lost the trades. A lot of the types of businesses that people used to start, people are starting to feel like, well, maybe that's not good enough. Maybe I've got to do something with technology. And it might have technology or it might not, but I love that you're kind of going back to the core reason for starting a business and that you're focusing on helping people start a business whether they want to scale or not. So if they want to just stay tiny, that's okay. And if they have a job, that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah. And actually having a job, both those things are important. Staying tiny and staying small is absolutely okay. And I, somehow this conversation about scale got ahead of us, and scale is not bad. I mean, that's a great thing too, if that's your ambition, but there's a lot of people who are going to want to build lifestyle businesses for themselves. They're going to want to start not-for-profits, and there's not a lot of literature on how to start a not-for-profit. They might just have the ambition of running for office or initiating, a community effort towards something that they think is important. And so Third Shift Entrepreneur is really about this idea that you have a job, and my encouragement, frankly, is keep the job. That's sort of the financial floor that you've got for yourself. And that's your first shift. Your second shift is the time that you spend with your family, your friends, and the obligations that you have in the community, volunteer service, and so forth. And then the third shift is what you do in the nights and weekends, like we're sitting here, or the time that you borrow back during the day, which frankly, when a lot of folks are working from home, they've got maybe some time that they can kind of better manage and reclaim for themselves. And it's in that third shift that I think we can really make things happen. And starting small is important. It's how it always goes. It almost always starts small. That's the way it works for most of us. Yeah. And that's okay. And you can have a great, you talked about the trades, you can open up an HVAC shop because you just felt like, the last HVAC call you had for your house felt, deficient. And so it's like, that's a market opportunity, or it's expensive. So, it's like, how do I, do the work I need to do to get a few clients, be their on-call HVAC technician, and then scale a business from there. And that's how it works so often, but it's gotten away from us. I don't think rates of entrepreneurship in this country are on a 50-year decline.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's
surprising. I would have thought with everything with the web, and because people seem to talk about it more, I'm really surprised that it's declined. That's sad.
Everyone is surprised. People are widely surprised when I tell them this, and and that's sort of that's what's so weird about this moment that we're in, is that we're having historically low levels of entrepreneurship, new business formation. If you exclude contractors, because that's sort of, or the gig economy is a little bit, but new businesses that are going to end up with, employing people, it's on a 50-year decline.
Okay.
And yeah, it's in spite of, as we've said, like the popularities, it's never been more popular. We have shows like Shark Tank and The Apprentice and The Profit, and that's, really popular TV. We've got an explosion of entrepreneurship majors in universities. It's the #1 major at, I think University of Chicago, where I went. So it's really popular. It's really celebrated. It's really talked about. And yet the rates of entrepreneurship are like this. So
it's really, man.
Yeah. And that's, and so then you have to ask yourself, like, why is that? I think there's a few reasons why, but part of it is because we haven't told sort of honest and relatable stories about how regular people, as I define it, can start things, and I think if people heard more of those stories, then more people would feel like the confidence to start.
I agree with you on that. So many people, it just, even if they have a dream, it feels like it's so far out of their reach. Or if they start thinking about what they need to do to start it, they get so overwhelmed. They don't know how to break it down into little pieces and little steps. And I haven't gotten to read your book yet, but I just love that you have written it for people to be able to help people start a business when they're not just jumping in, diving in, and letting go of everything else.
Yeah. And there's actually a lot of research on this. There was a 15-year study done by 2 researchers, I think at the University of North Carolina, and they looked at 5,000 entrepreneurs. And they found that of those that kept their job, the businesses had a 33%, they were 33% less likely to fail.
Wow.
Well, 33% less likely to fail, as compared to those where they kind of like went all in and burned the boats, and that kind of ethos of, taking the plunge. And I mean, all the language that, we hear, euphemisms around entrepreneurship are that. It's take the plunge, it's the risk, it's, it's the big bet. And I've seen that, and I've done that. I get that. I mean, that's, that's a way to do it. But the idea of slow rolling it, the idea of creating a financial floor for yourself, it actually really gives the business room to breathe. And that turns out to be an important asset for the business, let alone your own self. Right. But
that's right.
If you're under a pressure, a financial pressure, then the business is under a financial pressure. And that's not healthy, because it doesn't give you the time and space to discover what the market actually is, what the customers want, what you are building, whether or not you like even doing it, all these important
That's a big thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and aside from just the money, or like people running out of money and, having to shut down, there's so much more pressure to take on the kind of work that you don't want to be doing, especially if you're in a service business. And I know that myself, being in this business, web and marketing strategy since 1996, it can be so tempting to just look at cash flow and I'll do anything to get the cash flow going. And if somebody has a job, has a means of supporting themselves other than just the business, it allows them that luxury to really hold out for what they know they want and what's best for them in the long run.
Totally. Yeah, there's a process in entrepreneurship, and you know this, Lisa, from your own experience, where you know when it's early, you're kind of scrambling and you're just trying to get paid, and you'll do some things that are maybe a deviation from the business model, or you're not even sure what the business model is. So someone's like, "Hey, I'll pay you $500 to build a website." Someone else says, "Hey, I'll pay you a few $1,000 to help me do public speaking," and you sort of say,
"We were lost for a minute." I think the recording went black. Sorry, people. Sorry if you lost it. So, okay, go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, you're good. I see you. No, but I think this idea of experimentation, when you're a young business just starting off, you're going to take revenue from, you're going to take, you'll do whatever you got to do to get paid, right? So I want to pay you to write me a speech. I want to pay you if you're doing marketing and communications. I want to pay you to build a website. I want to pay you to do some kind of marketing audit. Well, those are very different things. And in time, what you really want to do is isolate on a business model that's repeatable, that gets you the same kind of work consistently, where you can really be best in class, right? And so you're right. If we have this pressure, it kind of doesn't help us make strategic choices for the business, and that's ultimately what we want to be doing, is making strategic choices and discovering, at some point we got to do some experiments and figure out what are we good at, what do people want from us, what seems to resonate. But then once we have an answer to that, which we got to be, the goal of a startup is get a good answer to that. And then you can, really double down on that and make that the core of your business and then grow from there. But again, that has to do with being patient, being strategic, listening to the market, saying no to things. Saying no,
I think is one of the hardest things for people to do in life in general, but especially in entrepreneurship. You mentioned lifestyle business. That's why I started my business in '96, even though the web was really young and we didn't have, all the mobility that we have now. I saw that I would be able to work from anywhere, and, as long as I had an internet connection. So I actually used to be an accountant. I dropped that totally then. And, I've worked from all over the world traveling, and, was able to care for my father-in-law who had Alzheimer's and my mother who had Alzheimer's, and raise my 2 kids. And, I had started a lifestyle business before people were talking about it. But, and that's what was important to me, but that's not what's important to a lot of people. And I think too many people don't stop and think about what is their why. What's the most important thing to them? Is it the money and going after something and trying to build a business that they can sell and make a lot of money? Or, is it like me, being able to be flexible for my family, or, whatever? Everybody's why is different.
Totally. Yeah. Your why is different. And I think you can, different businesses can serve different purposes. I mean, Bunker Labs, we is an organization that we scale, but there've been other things that I've done that, where the goal has not been to scale, and that's not a strategic intent or need, frankly, where you can drive profitability for a really small business. And that's a wonderful thing, and you can get time back, and, you can use that time to prioritize your life. And, we were talking earlier, and, we have a new son, and that's really a priority for me. It's just how do you spend time with him? And, and if I can trade off on that, then that's what matters in this phase, for what I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you started Bunker Labs, you had already started a couple of businesses yourself?
Yeah, I did. I started 2 different sort of small businesses. Everything I've done has been small, I guess, with the exception of Bunker Labs. Depending on how you define small, as a nonprofit, it's sort of mid-sized, but and I had worked for a large consulting firm, and then I left that and I started a boutique consulting practice focusing on actually municipal government, and I played around with that for a little while, and that was sort of interesting, and had some things work, some things didn't, and but I figured out how to pay myself, which was kind of a novel thing. And that was a transition out of the military, and learning to do that was like, oh, wow. Yeah. And then from there, I did a couple of things in the public sector. but really sort of found myself in this self-determined path where I was picking projects that I thought were interesting to me. I stopped viewing my career as as I started thinking of my career as a portfolio.
That's
and I think that's a concept I talk about. And the portfolio for me has always included things that involve the public sector and kind of public interest. I have a passion for that. Obviously, Bunker Labs it's serving a population that I care about, but it's also operating at private sector speed, but it's also a nonprofit. So I've started several different things, and some of them are boutique, and some of them don't ever formalize into businesses and are not legally incorporated per se, but at least a couple of nonprofits that continue to exist today, and then a few for-profits, and and then the management consulting I've always continued to do. I think the through line for us is our identities and the things that we care about. And sometimes that takes different forms, but for me, I've had a few different business entities, but there's a theme throughout all of it, which is around, career development or helping people kind of connect to their aspirations and ambitions, and often doing that through entrepreneurship. And that will, I think, throughout my professional life, that will remain a theme. We recently bought out here in Northwest Indiana, which is where we split time between Chicago and Indiana, but we bought a property out here that we are setting up as a retreat center.
Oh, nice.
And it's an old bed and breakfast. It's a cool property. And, we actually do a lot of weddings there right now, which is sort of, sometimes you figure out that seems to be the market. So I'm like, well, let's run a wedding venue if that's what the market is calling for.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, I really want to host, intimate sort of experiences, but still around this theme of how do you bring entrepreneurs together, right? So even though it's a bed and breakfast, it's for me, it's still in that theme of, group retreats and experiences that help people kind of connect to their personal fulfillment. And so that's a through line for everything I've done, and I think will be for the rest of my life.
That's great. You mentioned the working with municipalities. I do that as well. I do a lot of work, especially with economic development in Main Street communities. I used to be on the board for an economic development group. And within economic development, those small business is my passion, because everybody pays attention to the large businesses that they're trying to bring in, with the hundreds of employees. And they forget that in order to get those large businesses, you have to have a robust small business community, because that sense of community is what helps attract companies. They don't look at just how much it costs to move somewhere, relocate somewhere. They want to know, will my people want to live there? Yeah. And another thing that I feel strongly about with small businesses is that people don't realize what a big part they play in people's lives. A lot of us growing up, if we look back on childhood memories, a lot of those things revolve around certain small businesses, like, the neighborhood drugstore that kids would hang out and get a milkshake or a hamburger, or go to the bowling alley, or go to the movie theater, or whatever. And so most small businesses are way more than just a business. They're truly part of the fabric of a community's culture. And so when we lose one, the community loses that business, but that whole the cultural thing around it is lost too. And so I try really hard. I work really hard with trying to help keep small businesses open. Yeah. And I applaud what you're doing, because the way that you're doing it will help those businesses grow in a way that they will be more likely to stay open.
That's the hope. And honestly, as we go through this pandemic, it's devastating small businesses. Yeah. I think I was reading that 60% of Black-owned small businesses in the city of Chicago are shuttered because of COVID. And those are, and those are local businesses. So definitionally, it's in the small communities, it's in the neighborhoods, it's in those businesses that serve those communities are small businesses. And so it's faith-based institutions, it's small nonprofit organizations, it's the stuff that really matters to local communities. And as you say, it's not just about a business owner. It's also about the employees that work there. It's about the community that relies on that, and it's about the community. And so it's really important to me that we have thriving and small businesses and new businesses that come into the country. The net job growth in this country comes through new businesses.
Right.
It's not just, there's a disproportionate focus on sort of large corporate kind of actors and their health, and that's relevant for some of this. But new growth in this country, growth in the GDP. I mean, so much of that's driven by new businesses, innovation, and then what's happening in the communities is driven by small businesses. And so, yeah, we really do need to. If you want to look at the U.S. economy and you're asking for like what's the strategic lever, pulling it around entrepreneurship is really where you get outsized returns. And that's again where I go back to this idea of why it's so problematic that we're experiencing this 50-year decline in entrepreneurship in this country.
True. And with the ones that you mentioned, the 60% you said had closed in Chicago, that is just devastating. But like you said, they're right there in the neighborhoods. So a lot of these neighborhoods will be left with no place to get their groceries, no place to go out to eat, no place to get home supplies. And it leaves them so isolated. And then it becomes this vicious cycle of it's hard to bring anybody in if people that live there don't have any money.
That's right. And we're, so that vicious cycle is I think playing out. I mean, the optimist in me, because I'm always gonna be an optimist, says that we can talk in different ways about what the reality of the situation is, and maybe have like an elevated consciousness over the importance of small business, the importance of communities. Maybe if more people are working from home, maybe that creates sort of an impetus and a desire to reclaim local communities and a willingness to kind of step into places where we maybe would have wanted to have lived, but maybe didn't see it as an option, given the fact that commute to work somewhere. Well, maybe if we're commuting less where we live, maybe we have some more flexibility with. So, but I think, step one of anything is like, you gotta, get grounded in the problem before you can get the solutions. And so, so I'm a real advocate for helping, more people start businesses, particularly kind of, communities that feel like, isolated from the conversation. And venture capital has not been great. Only 20% of venture-backed companies are female-founded. I mean, and I don't believe that only 20% of good companies are female-founded. And only, I think it's 1% of venture-backed companies are Black-founded. So, the track record there is not great. It's too predicated on social capital and knowing the right people. And we got to democratize, I think, the conversations so that we get more people in rural communities and more diverse entrepreneurs and more women and people over 60 and people under 25 that think that they too can participate in this idea of starting a business.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. You and I in total agreement with that. One of the things that I've been working on recently, well, about 6 years ago, we developed a Shop Local website for one of our economic development clients. It's a 10-county region, rural region. So we developed the Shop Local website for them. And with COVID, the businesses were just dying, and the people who live there, their income was really hurt. So for one of the counties within it, they did a gift card matching sale where the county put up, for that initial one, the county put up $22,000. And so like if you bought a $10 gift certificate, the face value was $20. So what happened is the businesses got $44,000 in cash flow, and the shoppers got $22,000 in savings. And it wasn't just regular businesses. It was even like childcare centers and so forth. And that first sale sold out in an hour and a half. We were like, oh my gosh. So then about a month later, they did another one with $100,000. There are 3 towns in the county, and one county sold out after 3 hours. They're part of the $100,000. The other sold out after like 5 hours. The other one, it took a few days because it's a teensy town, really, really tiny, and just not that many businesses. But that has been so fulfilling to me. And now we have other counties that want to do it. And I love it because it's helping the businesses and it's helping the people there. I mean, the shoppers.
That's great. And I love the creativity on kind of that. I haven't heard of that kind of an initiative from the government, but like, that's we're in a moment where we've got to really think creatively about
Yeah.
what, how do we create the kind of communities that we want to live in, and
Well, I haven't heard of any other community doing anything like that. And the funny thing is, the tourism director for the county that did it used to work for me. She worked for me back when we developed it 6 years ago. So she called me and she's like, I have this money in my tourism budget that I want to see if they'll let me reallocate it, see if I can do this gift card matching thing. And so we talked it all through ahead of time, all right, how can we do this? And we developed it out so that if someone buys it, it generates a serial number, so they have a way of tracking and make sure that people can't duplicate, use a coupon more than once and so forth. And so, I mean, it was brilliant on her part that she thought about it. But I do think because she worked for me back then and she understood the system and the power that it had, then her imagination was able to take it further. And so now we live in Southern Virginia, just across the line from Raleigh, North Carolina. And now we have counties over in the Hampton Roads area that are calling and wanting to do it. So it's been pretty cool.
That's cool.
I want to ask you, out of your work with Bunker Labs, all the businesses that you, just the wonderful successes and all the different types of businesses that you've come through, what do you think is your biggest surprise? Or can you think of something that surprised you the most with that experience?
What has surprised me? That's a good question, Lisa. I'll tell you what doesn't surprise me is the ambition and the talent of the military community.
Yeah.
I think what does surprise me is I think I am surprised at how many people feel intimidated by the thought of starting their own business. How it feels sort of oversized in their imaginations as either a stay or do something quit and terribly risky and then start. And I think that's probably why I wrote the book. I think the book is full of things that, in my view, I have seen to be true, but other people have not. That's why I wrote the book, because I think I want to sort of dispense of.
Yeah, you've seen so much. You have so much information that you can share. I want to ask you something, though. I know that you're on a time crunch, and it's what, 7:27, 6:27 for you. I want to make sure that we don't run over.
Sure.
So you can just yell and say, "I'm done."
Okay. No problem.
Okay, sorry.
So what surprises me is I think people thinking, well, it's not a surprise. I know why people think it. If you don't know people in your network that have started businesses, then your mental model as to what it is to start a business is Mark Zuckerberg. Right. It's what you saw on Shark Tank. It's what you saw, it's what you read about in Silicon Valley. It's something that became a unicorn. And you don't really have role models, because I don't think we talk about it enough. Like, who's the person that opened up the local Greek restaurant and how did they do it? Yeah. Or who, like yourself, Lisa, who opens up a marketing business and how do they do it? And so I'm saddened more than surprised. I know I'm not surprised because I know that particularly for the military community, but really a lot of people, they don't know people who have started businesses. And so if you don't know people who have started businesses, it feels so foreign to you. It's like, I don't know professional athletes, so I couldn't tell you the first thing about how to become one. And I think the same is true if you don't know people that have started businesses. It feels really foreign to you. And then, and so as a result of that, I think I see people that are maybe, picking up bad habits, like you fake it till you make it, or which isn't good advice. We see that
a lot now with the internet and social media. All these people that are experts and influencers, and they really don't know anything, but people believe them because they're looking for something to believe in.
Yeah. And and so people kind of misdirect where their energy should come. And I tell people, look, if you can see a need and you can solve a need, you can be an entrepreneur. Right. If you live in a community and, like right now in COVID, it's like I'm seeing entrepreneurs who are doing really innovative, but in some ways obvious things like organizing pods for their block and saying, look, I'm going to do a social distancing pod. I'm going to do the homeschooling Zoom instruction. It's kind of like after, care, or after school care plus. And, I'm going to charge each of the kids a few $100 a month to participate. And parents are like, yep, sign me up,
Cool.
And people are just popping up businesses like that. And they're not self-identifying as entrepreneurs. And they don't need to. It's like that's an intimidating word. But they're just saying, look, everyone's struggling with kids at home and Zoom and all this. Well, hey, I've got some time. I'll bring together 20 kids and social distancing and lead them through their Zoom instruction and create an alternative environment and parents are like, yep, sign me up. So boom, you've got a business, And so it's things like that I think again, if the starting point, I talk to too many people, and this is maybe a surprise, who they say, I've got an idea. I want to start a business. And I'm like, that's awesome. Let's do it. What do you got? And then the next thing is, and because they think this is part of it, I'm getting ready to quit. I'm finally going to quit. And I tell people, quitting isn't starting.
Right.
Quitting is easy. Anybody can quit a job. That's not hard. That's not strategic. That's not courageous. That's not, that actually doesn't even advance the idea. What I want to know is when are you going to start? And that's a very different, conversation than when you're going to quit. So starting, we can do today. We can get smart. We can do research. We can become curious. If we think that our community needs a better bagel shop, we can go and, we can pop up a sidewalk bagel stand and see what happens, and that might sound embarrassing, but I think it's actually trading on the right.
I don't think so.
To do that. Yeah.
No, I think that's great. And you're right. Anybody can quit. And when they quit, then they get up the next day and they're like, okay, now what? Okay. They don't know what to do. One of the really cool adaptations I've seen recently is a lady that I know through one of the entrepreneurial groups that I'm in and through my business coach. She's a photographer and I have no clue how she's doing it. You might have seen it before, virtual photography.
Wow.
And, my business coach's son, who is also a consultant and a coach, posted this great photograph of him last week. And I was like, wow, that's so good. And then he goes, yeah, so-and-so took it. And I was like, man. And then he goes, but the really cool thing is she wasn't even here. I had a tripod and my phone. And so I haven't asked him how she did it because I'm going to have her on my show. She and I are talking tomorrow because I'm just fascinated. I love the fact that she was so creative. And I don't know, maybe other people are doing it, but I haven't heard of it. I just love the fact that she took a business that you really should be right there with them and has figured out a way to do it. I don't even know if they live in the same state or not.
That's
so
really
I
cool.
can't wait to talk with her and find out how she did it and how she came up with the idea. And then, when you can see how somebody comes up with one idea, you can extrapolate that out into other industries. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but you can use that to help you come up with your own ideas. I'm sure that you've seen that.
Whoa, yeah. One of my favorite photography stories is a woman who was trying to figure out how to, launch her photography business. And she would go in front of really beautiful homes or unique homes and set up and spend a few hours kind of waiting for the sun to get the perfect shot. And the owners of the home would come out and say, well, what are you doing? And she'd go, oh, do you mind if I actually take a photo of your house? I just think it's really perfect. And I want to get the perfect shot. I love your home, and these homeowners would say, oh, sure. Like kind of flattered, like, thanks. And then of course, what happens next? Then they say, well, by the way, yeah, is it possible for us to get a copy of that? And she's like, sure, I can sell you a copy of that. And, it's $500 or whatever. And so boom, you got a business, so this idea, it's shifting from, and this is what I talk about in the book a lot, but it's shifting from here's what I'm good at towards thinking about the customer, what does the customer need? So you've got a skill. We've all got skills. We've all got talents, but what is it that, the people, what is it that the need is, and how do we show up and sort of meet that need at this time? And if we can just think on that and really come, which is like your friend who's a photographer, it's a great need. It's like, hey, people are stuck at home. They don't want to get close to each other, but they still need photos. They need professional photos or family photos. So let me figure out how to do that. That's the mindset that it doesn't cost anything. We don't have to quit a job. We just got to think about it and then do something for it. And then we can begin to build a little, revenue stream for ourselves. And that's the beginning of a business. Which is pretty cool.
So what would you say, and I'm sure you've already said them, but let's distill it. Your top 2 or 3 bits of advice that you want people to make sure that they take away from this.
Yeah. Well, the first one is don't quit your job, or maintain financial stability for yourself, for your family, and then for the business. That's actually, it's actually mostly for the business. And again, there's research that says this is how you do it. The founder of Nike, the founder of Salesforce. I mean, a lot of very famous entrepreneurs kept their job while they were building the business. The founder of Fubu, Sarah Blakely, before she founded Spanx, was selling fax machines, and she kept doing it, because she needed the income. So I want to say, create financial stability for yourself. Number one, if you're in a job, the second piece of advice is kind of related to the first, but get close to the problem that it is that you want to solve, or the business that it is that you want to launch. So if you work in accounting right now, but your dream is to open a restaurant, go work at a restaurant. Oh,
that's a great point. Great idea.
And it's sort of obvious, but it's amazing how many people miss it. I call this designing your internship. Yeah. And by the way, you can get paid to do that. You can go into a paid internship. It's like, if I wake up tomorrow and decide, look, I want to work with animals, or I want to open up a kennel. Well, let me go work at a local kennel. I mean, if I really care about this dream, well, why wouldn't I go? Don't go get a degree. You don't need a degree. You got to know. Go work at a local kennel and figure out, what are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? What's their business model? What do they charge? How many animals are coming in? Is there really a need here? What are the customers saying? Who are these customers? So go get a job, close to the thing that it is that you want to do. And that's invaluable. And so
you also have the luxury of realizing that maybe you hate it.
Yeah. Right. You spend a week working in a kennel and you're like, man, this is miserable. Well, great. Yeah. You made a few extra bucks working at night, or maybe you offered to do it for free. And I think that's okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's important knowledge. I mean, are we good at it? Do we like doing it? All this stuff. So, and then I think the third thing I would say, and this is pretty universally true for a lot of entrepreneurs, is prove that you can do it for free. And if you can charge, that's fine too. If you can, do that, then that's fine too. But I see a lot of people that, if you want to open up a marketing consulting business, well, I'm going to want to see an example of a company that went from bad marketing to good marketing. And also that the company that you work for, like, give me their number. You ought to feel as an entrepreneur really confident. Like, I'm really good at this. I've solved this problem, and here's someone you can call right now, and they'll tell you, and not just like a quote on a website, but like they will tell you, you really should use me because I'm good at this thing. So I think creating that evidence that what we're doing really works. It matters. And it's, I think sometimes people can think, and this is a misconception, that being an entrepreneur is kind of like a game. Like, you got to kind of catch people. There's no magic to it. It's just, it's actually being really good at what it is that you want to do. And then if it's true, other people are going to want it. So those are the 3 things I would give you, Lisa.
Those are all great. And the thing about putting yourself in there, I love the way that you word it. Get as close to it as you can. That's great.
Yeah.
So what's the website for your book?
Yeah, it's thirdshiftentrepreneur.com, all spelled out. And you can go there. You can get the book. It comes out in January. Pre-orders available now. And we've got lots of content. We interview entrepreneurs every week. And we're just, I just have a real passion for this. So we're going to keep having this conversation. I have a real passion for it. I encourage folks, if you want to start a business, you can do it.
Yeah.
And you can start it today. And the way to think about it, reframe it, is don't think that it's about some big dramatic act. It's not about a big declaration on Facebook. It's about starting small. It's about solving a problem and then kind of letting the market pull you from there.
Yeah. Something that came in my mind the other day, because somebody I was talking to who was coming up with excuses because of the pandemic and stuff. And I told them, don't use the shutdown as an excuse. Use it as a reason.
Mm.
You know, if you can flip your thinking, just flip it and looking at something from the positive view instead of the negative or whatever. Oftentimes that mindset can make you think of things that you never would. Totally. I can't wait to read your book. I'm looking forward to it. Are you going to do a launch party?
Oh yeah, the whole 9.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. So yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. I will include the website link in the show notes and everything, so people, if they didn't write it down, so they can remember. And I thank you so much for joining me, Todd. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you, Lisa. Likewise. Thanks for what you're doing. It's important.
Thanks. Oh, and I'm starting next week. I'm starting to have my show on Tuesday nights as well as Thursday. So I have my first show Tuesday night. So Italy, Michigan. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. So, but thanks a lot for coming, Todd.
Thank you, Lisa. Take care.
Y'all.